All right. So for those of you who are here, if anyone's here, sorry, I did a thing and now we have to change the cameras again. So it'll be a couple minutes, but you can still hear us chatting because I unmuted the mic. So, yay! How do we fix it?
I love you so much. Okay.
I love you too. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was just getting closer, so I.
Right. We do. Finish the transfer. Or transform. There we go. Transform, and then left. Want to watch this. Okay. 600. Oh, it went to 60. I was like, that's not right. Okay, there we go. And then
Don't know. Oh, oh.
What is this?
It's for question. Oh no, that's the wait, actually I have no idea what that is. So
Okay, because I was just editing something that wasn't me. I
I
don't know what it was. Okay, back to fixing things to being good.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's all good. There we go. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Can I do this now? It's you. Why are you there?
Wait, hold on. Okay, I need this to be out of my life.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
That's your camera, isn't it?
It is, yes. That's you.
That's me. Okay, so this is your camera.
Okay,
yes.
so get it. Yeah, get it.
Okay.
I understand. I understand the effect.
Oh, that's fine.
But we're flipping.
Oh.
You need a mirror. Because
Yes.
this goes the other way.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, click back on. Thank you. Then we need to transform. Transform. Yes. No, flip. Horizontally. And then go back over here. So can you move it so that I'm centered? Perfectly?
Yes.
And then I'm looking at you.
Yeah. Do you like that?
Can you move me a teensy bit down? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah! We did
Yay,
it!
we did it!
Teamwork!
Look at us, we did the thing. Yeah! Okay.
Woohoo!
Hey, guys, sorry about all of that.
Or you're welcome, because you never get to see behind the scenes stuff.
Exactly, and so we're chock full of behind the scenes stuff.
So good.
We should be. YouTube told me that we were live, and that was like several minutes ago. Several. Okay. Cool. Well, hello.
Welcome back to Crime Chats. I'm Hillary.
And I'm Lisa.
And we're live.
Yes, we are. Crime Chats.
In advance for your subscribing to our channel. Completely free to you. Yep. Liking the channel or liking the video. Also free for you. You can follow us on Twitter, on TikTok. We don't have Twitter.
We're not on Twitter. We're not on
I don't know where. Whatever.
TikTok. Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Yes. Those are the three. No, I feel like we should, but I haven't gotten there yet. Because again, it's just us two.
Right.
So I'm still getting there.
It's a process. It's a process. So thank you for supporting us by doing those things that are completely free to you.
Yeah.
You can also, if you feel so inclined, financially support us through what?
We are on Buy Me a Coffee. You can find us there, Crime Tats. And I think that's where you can also, if you want to subscribe to, like, get, like, the special mini-sodes from us, like the Pacer stuff that we talked about. So buy me a coffee. That's where you'll find that stuff. So
thank you, guys. And without further ado, I hate that saying. I don't know. What's our crime for today?
So today I'm actually not gonna share the names at all, and I'm just gonna like launch into it. So this one is, so last week we had the twisties, but is kind of comical because of her lying and stuff. So this one's just dark twisty. I don't know why, but I seem to be like drawn to the darker stuff.
It's that morbid curiosity. That's why we're here.
I don't know. So anyway, I found one and I got obsessed with it, and then like my notes are very lengthy because I just couldn't stop myself. So it might be a longer stream today, but that's fine. That's a-okay. So here we go. Alrighty. So it's April of 1990. 4 months before I'm born.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Thanks. So it's April. There's a hit and run in Oklahoma City. So this woman named Tanya Hughes, she was only 20 years old. She dies in the accident. So she had worked as an exotic dancer in Tampa, Florida, and later she moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma with her husband Clarence, and she had a son named Michael, who was born in 1988. So background kind of on her, but there's a hit and run, and she is no longer with us.
So her little boy was 2 years old when she died.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad. So following Tanya's death, in 1990, so the state of Oklahoma filed a petition in May of that year to make Michael a ward of the court as a deprived child because he's 2 and he doesn't have a mom anymore, which is sad.
Dad's not in the picture?
So during the proceedings, Clarence claimed that he was Michael's biological father and requested the court enter an order preserving his parental rights. So I guess, yeah.
Okay. So he doesn't have a dad, and he's trying to be in the picture, I guess, is what I'm getting at?
Yes.
Okay.
So because Clarence made this legal claim of paternity, the court ordered the following. So Clarence was required to pay child support. He was granted the right to supervise the visits with Michael, and blood tests were administered to, I guess, determine if he really is who he says he is, because, like, you know, they don't know him, right? They just know that this lady died and she had a kid, and, you know, suddenly there's this man. So
I'm so sorry. So they're not
they're not together in the car.
No, I understand, but they're not. The court is not agreeing that Clarence is the father, but they're making him pay child support.
Well, so he's claiming that's because I don't know. I guess like because I don't know. It's. I didn't really get a ton of information more than that. It's just I'm like there's so much information. Okay. So. Anyway, so Tanya was, you know, she was driving, she was killed, she had a kid, and then Clarence, suddenly this man is like, that's my son, I'm his biological father, like, that, he's mine, but then the court is like, okay, well, first, before we need to prove it, right? So, I guess the blood test came first. I don't know if they, like, forced him to pay child support immediately. I don't really know the details of that. But anyway, so those are the things he was required to do. So blood tests were administered and all that stuff. So Tanya's death was, I guess it was a car accident, but it was kind of suspicious.
Okay.
So that's just what it was. It was a suspicious death. Investigators discovered that she had actually used multiple aliases. So they looked into her background. She's got all these different names. It's kind of weird in her recent history and her legal documents. So the factors that kind of the way they discovered this was Tanya, she died in a mysterious hit and run in Oklahoma City, and then because her husband Clarence, he became kind of the prime suspect, I guess, because they were like they kind of looked into it, and there's like this life insurance policy in her name, which is, you know, shortly before her death, and so they were like, okay,
sussy,
that's weird.
But now he's her husband.
Yeah, so he's claiming, he's like, where she's my wife, he's my kid.
Okay.
But they're like, okay. I mean, husbands kill their wives for money all the time.
True, but the fact that he wasn't, I don't know, that he's trying to prove his paternity when before it should have just been, that's my kid and we go kind of thing. Why did it get to that point? Why was he even taken as a ward of the state, the child? Where was dad? You know, that kind of, that's what I'm thinking of.
I
if
mean,
that's his, if
I
they're
don't
married.
know.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I'm thinking way too much. Okay.
So he had taken a life insurance policy in her name shortly before her death, so authorities were prompted to verify her identity. That's where they found, you know, the multiple aliases, and they're like, that's weird. And then they also located a marriage license from June 15th of 1989 in New Orleans. This document revealed that while she was known as Tanya Hughes at her death, she had married Clarence Hughes under the name of Tanya Dawn Tadlock. So she was Tanya Tadlock and then Tanya Hughes when they got married.
That makes sense. You
to
change your name.
Clarence. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So investigators began peeling back the layers of her life. They quickly realized that neither Tanya Hughes nor Tanya Tadlock was her true identity.
Oh, fun.
So this initial research into her background in the early 1990s also began to link her to the name Sharon Marshall, an identity she had used throughout the 1980s while living in Georgia. So now we have Tanya Hughes dies in a car crash, but she was really Tanya Tadlock, who married Clarence, but she was really Sharon Marshall.
Okay.
Things are getting a little hairy.
And that's from Georgia
Yes.
to not Ohio, Oklahoma.
Yes.
Okay.
So, chew on that for a minute. Just mull it over in your noggin. So a few days after Tanya's death, Clarence Hughes voluntarily relinquished custody of 2-year-old Michael to the Oklahoma Department of Human Services. So I guess I had ordered this wrong. So he relinquished his rights. Or he relinquished, So he basically gave his son, but then claimed that he was the biological dad, but then still was like, here's my kid.
Want him or I can't.
So maybe that's why they forced him to pay child support. Because they're like, look,
that makes more sense.
They were like, okay, dude, you're kind of a piece of shit. This is your kid. Why are you giving him to us? Right? You still have to pay. Anyway.
And to be fair, as a person in the foster care community, I cannot imagine how difficult for you and me. I mean, you and me and normal people, how difficult it would be to give up your child because you physically cannot take care of them. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But if he's just a piece of trash and was like, I don't want a kid, here you go, that's a whole other thing, and that happens, right? But I just wanted to clear that up because there's a lot of reasons why you might relinquish rights to parenthood.
Right. So on May 17th, 1990, that's when the state of Oklahoma filed the petition to make Michael a ward of the court as a deprived child. Okay. So in early May, so the same month, he was placed with foster parents Merle and Ernest Bean.
Please. Oh, okay. I'm not going to say it. Please don't make this be a bad foster parent story. Okay.
So when Michael first entered foster care in May, he was nonverbal, he lacked muscle control, and was assessed at a mental level of only 9 months old when he was 2 years old. However, over the next 2 years, he made great developmental progress. So under the care of the Beans. So good foster care family. Yeah, you're welcome. So during Michael's 4 years with Merle and Ernest Bean, he underwent a profound transformation from a severely traumatized toddler into a vibrant young student. When he first entered their care in May, again, nonverbal, lack of muscle control, he was often hysterical. So he was basically the brain of a 9-month-old when he was 2, but by the time he reached the first grade, his foster parents described him as a bubbly first grader. So this suggests a significant emotional recovery from the hysterical state he was in when he first arrived. Okay. So they were good parents, and he was bubbly first grader, and everything was good for him. So the Beans provided a stable environment in Choctaw, Oklahoma, and enrolled him in Indian Meridian Elementary School. He was an active 6-year-old student, and so during these years, Michael grew to be 3 feet 10 inches tall and weighed about 45 pounds. He was known for having 2 crooked bottom teeth when he smiled and a scar on his forehead. So basically, Harry Potter. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, where are the glasses?
Yeah. So he was you know, just a cute kid. You can kind of imagine him with the crooked teeth, and you know, he's just bubbly and just happy.
Being a little boy.
Yeah. So Merle and Ernest were good parents. Okay. So back to the twisty now.
Yes,
okay?
I forgot that.
So,
I was like,
yes.
yay, good sport, we have a happy ending.
Wanted to give some reprieve before we got into
Thank you.
Okay. So in December of 1992, the state trial court ruled that the blood test definitively proved that Clarence was not Michael's biological father.
Interesting. Okay.
So based on this evidence, the court ordered all contact between Clarence and Michael be terminated. Michael's biological father was actually someone named Gregory Higgs.
Okay.
So I'll get into Gregory Higgs a little bit more later, but it was also discovered that Clarence Hughes was actually Franklin Delano Floyd, a convicted felon who had been a fugitive since escaping parole in Florida in 1973.
Great. Okay.
Just a you know, wholesome tale of, you know,
Prison escapes.
and
Changing your
fugitive
name. Yeah.
and changing your name and marrying somebody and trying to pretend that her kid is yours, you know.
That's great. I had a thought about that though. If they were married and she had a kid by another guy, because the little boy, what's his name?
Michael
was born in '88. The two suspicious people got married in '89. So maybe he kind of like took on the role of a father. So he lied and said that's my kid, but
Right, yeah.
maybe I don't know. That's my thought. Like maybe it was the only dad that he ever knew.
Yeah,
Kind of thing, you know?
that would be, I mean, that would make sense. They got married, he was like
Right.
one, so
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just my thought there. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna have a little water.
Water break. Hydrate.
Water break. It's good
And
to
you too
hydrate.
can get your very own crime chats. It's not that hard to not kill people. Water tumbler.
That wasn't even supposed to be like a lead up to a plug, but it worked out. I was just genuinely thirsty.
Check it out on Amazon. We have our own Amazon storefront.
All right. So far, there's Michael. He's
Boy.
not
Okay.
the son of Clarence, and Clarence isn't Clarence.
Clarence.
He's
He's Higgs.
no.
Fancy. Itchies.
He is not Clarence. He's actually Franklin Delano Floyd, a
Right.
convicted felon
Where did
who
Higgs come?
escaped justice in 1973. I'll get into that later.
I thought someone was Higgs. Okay, names. I know. Last week I had a bunch of names too, so I'm trying to keep them all straight here. Okay.
So, prior to becoming a fugitive, Floyd was a convicted felon who had already served time in federal prison for bank robbery and child rape. His status as a fugitive was triggered by the following events.
Okay.
Yep. February of 1973, while already on federal parole for the bank robbery, Floyd was arrested by the Atlanta Police Department for attempted kidnapping. One source also notes that he disappeared after assaulting a woman that same year. So he's just one hell of a guy.
Let's not ever meet.
Following the arrest for attempted kidnapping, Floyd failed to appear for his trial.
Bail jumping.
Yeah. And because he was on parole and had failed to appear to court, federal authorities issued a warrant for his arrest as a parole violator. So I'm assuming that's how they got his DNA, and they were able to compare, you know, when they took Clarence's blood, and they were like, whoa.
Okay.
Because that was confusing to me too. I kept asking, I was like, well, how did they know? How did they know that he was this Floyd guy? But then, like, they already had Floyd's blood. Yeah. Okay. So, throughout his decades as a fugitive, Franklin Delano Floyd had a variety of aliases to avoid arrest on that outstanding 73 warrant. He was Brandon Williams. He assumed this moniker in 1974. And then he was Trenton Davis, or Trenton B. Davis, when he was in Oklahoma City in 1975, using that name. And then he became Warren Marshall. So by 1984, he was using this alias while living with a woman named Sharon Marshall, who we now know as Tanya, right?
Got it. Okay.
So Sharon Marshall in Georgia. So he's still using his name when he forced her to work as an exotic dancer in Tampa in the late 1980s.
How do we know he forced her and she didn't do it willingly?
Because that's what the sources said.
Okay.
Okay. And then Clarence Hughes, this last persona, this is the identity he used when he married Tanya Tadlock in New Orleans in '89. he continued using this name through Tanya's death after the weird hit and run in 1990, and during the Michael debacle, Michael Hughes stuff. So, yeah. Research into Tanya's past revealed that while living in Georgia in 1984, she had used the name Sharon Marshall while Franklin Floyd was still using his Warren Marshall. So they were like the Marshalls, I guess, when they went from Georgia to Oklahoma, and then she was Tanya Hughes when he was Clarence Hughes.
So she was already taking his last name.
They got married in 1989.
Well, that was when they were the other people, the new names.
Clarence Hughes, this was the identity so he used Clarence when he married Tanya Tadlock in New Orleans.
But you were saying even before then they were living together as the Marshalls.
Yeah, they were living together Marshalls when he was forcing her to be an exotic dancer.
So were they already married as Marshalls and then they got married again as the other names?
No, they weren't married.
So why'd she have his last name?
It was just an alias. I don't know.
Were they pretending to be married?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're asking a lot of questions that
so sorry.
I'm revealing later, so I'm trying not to tell you.
Okay.
Try not to tell you. So random fact, just because. So when she was using Sharon Marshall, she was actually a brilliant student under this name and received a full scholarship to study aerospace engineering.
Whoa, okay.
So very smart, yeah. Very smart girl, going to school, but also having to dance seductively for money.
Yeah, unfortunately. I have thoughts about that too. But
yeah. So even after being identified as a convicted felon and fugitive, Franklin Delano Floyd, he said to Oklahoma State Court that he was still Michael's biological father to gain supervised visits in prison. So so they know who he really is, but this was before he wanted to contest the blood test results, basically saying, how dare you, I'm definitely his biological father, those tests are wrong, blah, blah.
But knowing the whole time he's not. Oh, because he's also a child rapist.
So, right.
Sorry,
so
my brain.
He's like, we need to contest these results. They're wrong, I promise.
Okay.
100%. He's definitely my son. For reals. No cap.
For real.
No cap.
No cap. I'm sure he said that in 1980, whatever.
Yep.
1990.
Yep. It's just coming back. Everything just comes back, like bell-bottom jeans.
Yes!
So one of the most striking revelations is that Franklin Delano Floyd knew who Michael's biological father was all along. So he knew about Gregory Higgs' guy, okay?
That's the Higgs. Okay.
Yeah, so we're coming back to that now. So shortly after Tanya's death in April of 1990, Floyd called a man named Gregory Higgs in Arizona. So, Tanya's relationship with Gregory Higgs took place in 1987 while she was living in Phoenix, Arizona under the alias of Sharon Marshall. At the time, she was living with Franklin Delano Floyd, who's using the name Warren Marshall and posing as her father. Okay. So that's where that Marshall name comes in. So she was, Sharon Marshall was
that's
Warren
daughter.
Marshall's daughter. Yes.
Okay. And they're visually accepted that way? He looks old enough to be your dad, I guess?
I guess so.
I don't know why I got all he's old enough to be your dad. Got really weird there.
Got a little southern drawl. I'm not very good at it, but that's fine. Okay, so during their time in Phoenix, Arizona, Suzanne and Gregory Higgs began dating, and she subsequently became pregnant with Michael. Okay. Whoa. I'm ruining it. Okay, so Sharon Marshall and Gregory Higgs began dating. Sexy times, pregnant Michael, okay? So Sharon did not inform Higgs that she was pregnant. Consequently, Higgs remained unaware that she had a son for several years. So before the baby was born in 1990, Floyd and Sharon abruptly left Phoenix. They moved to Tampa, Florida, where she gave birth to Michael on April 21st, 1988.
Okay.
So she basically got pregnant, and then Warren Marshall, Floyd was like, we gotta go.
And Higgs never knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sharon named the boy Michael Gregory Marshall, including Gregory's middle name, kind of as a,
homage.
an homage, to his real dad.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah. So fast forward again to 1990. So, shortly before the accident, I guess, Floyd informed Higgs that Sharon had died or Tanya at this point had died, and that Higgs was Michael's biological father. Floyd even asked Higgs if he wanted to raise the boy.
Okay.
So Floyd calls...
Before the accident. Did you say that, or am I making stuff up?
I thought it was before, but maybe it was right after. I don't know. I guess it was a little bit unclear on the sources, but
But he called him and asked.
He called him and said, "Hey,
you got a kid.
Michael's your son, and Mom's dead. Do you want to take care of the kid?"
Okay.
Higgs agreed.
Okay.
So Dad was like, "Of course, he's my son. I want my son." And then Floyd promised to contact him within a month to deliver Michael. Instead, Floyd never spoke to him again and voluntarily surrendered Michael to the state, only to later launch a fraudulent legal battle claiming he was the biological father.
Why?
I don't know, but he just bait and switched Gregory, which sucks.
He didn't even have a chance to be a dad.
Nope.
Okay.
And he wanted to, you know, and so he trusted that that Clarence would, give him his son back, and then he never did. So, in July of 1993, the Oklahoma Supreme Court remanded the custody case back to the trial court, ruling that Floyd was entitled to an evidentiary hearing regarding the blood test results. So, he's allowed to say that they were wrong, and he's allowed to prove it or whatever in court.
Good luck.
Even though he was
like your DNA. Good luck.
Even though we already knew that he was like a piece of shit, and they already knew that too. Yeah. So
okay, have fun. Waste your own money.
So on July 12th of 1994, the court scheduled the mandated evidentiary hearing, that's a hard word to say, for September 23rd, 1994. However, 11 days before the hearing could take place, on the morning of September 12th, 1994, Floyd appeared at Michael's elementary school in Choctaw, Oklahoma.
No, you had a no contact, right?
So, yeah. So he shows up at the school, and let me go back to...
Once again, y'all, if you are getting tried for a misdemeanor or you have trial, don't commit more crimes. Don't do it. It's not that hard.
So on this day, Michael was, he went to school. He was carrying a red and blue Aladdin backpack and wearing black high-top sneakers. Okay? Just a cute kid. Just a cute kid going to school with an Aladdin backpack, which I want an Aladdin backpack.
I like it.
And he had high tops on. So 6-year-old Michael was at school. Like I said, backpack, sneakers. Floyd used a chrome-plated .25 semi-automatic pistol or .25 semi-automatic pistol to force the school principal, James Davis, to help him kidnap Michael. Floyd took Michael and the principal's 94 Ford pickup truck, leaving Davis handcuffed to a tree in a secluded wooded area. So both Davis and Michael have now been kidnapped by Floyd, and Floyd leaves Davis tied to a tree. Floyd forced Davis out of the vehicle, handcuffed him to the tree, where he stayed for like 4 to 5 hours. He eventually was heard like screaming for help in the woods.
Okay, well, he lives. That's good.
Yeah, he survived the encounter.
Okay.
Okay. So, despite the kidnapping and the fact that Floyd was a fugitive, the hearing proceeded as scheduled on September 23rd, 1994. Floyd was not present.
Did he show up? That was going to be my next question.
Nope, Floyd was not there. His legal counsel was there, though. And the final ruling, after hearing the evidence and the blood test results, the state court officially reaffirmed that Floyd was not the father, and that was that. That was the result, which, I mean, nobody's surprised.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even show up. Like, do you even really care? Like, the DNA says this.
You can't
That's
change
what we're
DNA. Yeah. I wonder if that was like a tactic of his to keep those people busy on that court case while he was like, I'm going to go take my kid. I don't know. If he was even thinking logically, I don't know. Probably not. Because it doesn't seem like it.
So, Principal Davis's truck was found on October 22nd, 1994, in a Wonder Bread parking lot in Dallas.
Okay.
So then Floyd was arrested in Louisville, Kentucky in November of 1994, but Michael was not with him. So they found the truck. Of course, my next question was like, how the fuck did he get from Dallas to Kentucky, right? Because the truck was found in, okay. So, Floyd admitted to investigators that after leaving Oklahoma, he traveled to Kansas City, Missouri, and then to Dallas, Texas. The prosecution established that he drove Principal James Davis's stolen Ford pickup to Dallas, where it was eventually found. The truck was found in good condition, and then after abandoning the vehicle, Floyd traveled to Atlanta, Georgia, and finally to Louisville, Kentucky. I tried really hard to find exactly how he made it there, but all I could find was that he took public transportation or he like stole another car or something. But we don't know exactly how he got there without the principal's truck.
So sorry. Without the
principal's truck, we don't know, but he got there and he left the truck in Dallas. So we don't know how he got there physically, but I mean there's buses and stuff, so. So by October 1994, he'd already found employment with a painting contractor in Louisville. I couldn't find tons of details about this job, but during his time on the job, Floyd made a critical mistake. He confessed to a coworker about the kidnapping. He admitted to this colleague that he had abducted a 5-year-old boy and that the child had been with him in Atlanta, Georgia. Which, like, why? Why? So this is the one comedic relief part, I guess. Like, dummy, like...
Criminals, you are never... I'm talking like we have viewers that are criminals. Please don't. Criminals are never as smart as they think they are. Ever. Yeah. Ever.
And he thought he got away, so you get cocky and then you get chatty.
I mean, you kind of did get away, and then you opened your mouth.
I'm listening to a podcast, or I just finished it, because I run through these things so fast, I just eat everything up. Basically this guy, was talking about, like, criminals that, they get comfortable, and then they get chatty. And that's when they get caught, is when they get chatty.
Yeah.
But, like, so I guess this crime that this part is talking about, the guy never blabbed. And so that's why, like, they couldn't find him. Whatever.
Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, keep your mouth shut.
Don't, actually. Criminals blab, but...
Yeah, please blab and make our jobs easier. But, so he just, like...
Idiot. Okay.
I don't even know how that comes up in conversation. Like, you're painting a house or whatever. And
maybe
then,
it was, like, talking about family and stuff, and, like, oh, I have kids, you have kids, and... Maybe he was like, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to hear a crazy story? Idiot.
And then the coworker was like, oh, God.
Great. 911.
That's so cool of you.
Yeah.
Thank you for, I'm glad you feel that we're friends enough to share.
Go shower for 10 days. Okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
Floyd remained in Louisville, Kentucky, working as a painter until he was arrested by FBI agents on November 10th, 1994.
Okay.
So immediately following his arrest, Floyd tried to use Michael's location as leverage. So he pulled the Ted Bundy, like, yep. I know stuff, gotta let me go. He offered to reveal where the boy was, but only in exchange for a written agreement that he would not face any criminal prosecution. Which, like, that's like a big ask.
And a big tell.
Yeah.
I mean, idiot, you're guilty and you know it.
I'm a criminal. I definitely did this thing. But if I tell you, you have to forget that I am a criminal and I did this thing.
Good. Sign it. No.
A federal grand jury indicted Floyd for the kidnapping of Michael Hughes, along with firearm and carjacking charges on January 18th, 1985. So he had other things under his belt, too. Which,
yeah. Well, and that he
by
gunpoint took the principal, so that...
Right,
yeah.
so there's that, yeah. So the trial was a bench trial held in United States District Court for the Western District of Oklahoma, and Floyd faced 6 criminal charges related to the abduction. So kidnapping of Michael Hughes, carjacking of the principal's car, the principal's truck, interstate transportation of a stolen vehicle, so
cross state lines,
felon in possession of a firearm, and 2 counts of carrying a firearm during the commission of the kidnapping and the carjacking. So 6 charges.
Good job. Buddy.
And that coworker that he thought was friends with him, the coworker provided key testimony. Of course he did.
Good.
You know?
That's also got to be really scary. I always say that. as a witness to anything or whatever you're called to testify, that's got to be the most terrifying thing. I told you before, right? I was a witness, or I was a whatever. I had to be in court.
I don't think so.
When I was doing the specialized visitation officer.
Oh, you didn't tell me you had to go to court, but I know this.
It was a digital court, like it was Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Zoom. But it was still terrifying because I was the one who was, saying this guy did all these things.
They can see you and like.
Yeah.
Scary.
It was scary.
That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So, Principal Davis provided key testimony. His account helped the prosecution establish that Floyd had transported Michael across state lines, which was a necessary element for the federal kidnapping conviction. So, I guess he told the coworker, he was like, yeah, in Atlanta.
Right.
I kidnapped this dude. So, Floyd's primary legal defense was that he was exempt from federal kidnapping charges under 18 U.S.C. Section 1201, which contains an exception for a parent of a minor. Floyd argued that he had acted as Michael's surrogate parent from birth until the child was placed in foster care in 1990.
Okay, that was kind of my thinking.
Yeah. So because I'm a surrogate parent.
You still can't kidnap your child.
Yeah, what? Anyway.
Parents can still kidnap their own children. Don't do it. It's still a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The court rejected this, obviously, ruling that any status Floyd had as a surrogate parent was temporary and voluntary. Yeah. By surrendering Michael to the state in 1990, he freely relinquished custody of him and terminated his parental status. So furthermore, the court noted that his later attempts to regain custody through child support and visits were based on fraudulent claims of biological paternity. Yeah. So basically, like, you're a stupid liar, like...
You stupid weenie.
Yeah.
You're a stupid
Get
liar.
out of my face, yeah.
Sorry.
That made me think of, like, is your mom watching?
I think so.
Okay, that's why I was like, he's stupid. He's a stupid butthead meanie. I'm just gonna use proper words that aren't bad words.
Love you.
So prosecution relied heavily on the testimony of Principal Davis and evidence of interstate travel. So
good. Principal came in too.
Yeah, so Davis testified that Floyd confronted him with a chrome-plated Raven .25 semi-automatic pistol, forced him to take Michael from class, and then handcuffed him to a tree in a wooded area. Davis also stated that when Floyd confronted him in his office on the morning of December 12, 1994, he stated, "I'm ready to die, and if you don't help me, you won't live." So Floyd told him that. Quote, I'm ready to die, so he has nothing left to lose.
And he's threatening.
And then he's threatening, if you don't help me, you won't live. Floyd then displayed a portion of the chrome-plated pistol concealed in his pants pocket and ordered the principal to remove 6-year-old Michael from his classroom.
Okay.
So Floyd used this threat, where he eventually handcuffed the principal to the tree and fled with Michael. To establish federal jurisdiction, the government proved Floyd took Michael across state lines. Evidence included that confession Floyd made to his coworker, and investigators also found a partial map of Atlanta and Floyd's abandoned truck and a second map. So kind of like he used like these two maps to get across the two states.
Right. Okay. Pause for the people listening that don't know what a map is. If you are young enough to never have had the need to actually read a physical paper map in your car.
We did not always have GPS.
We did not always have GPS. You had to look at a map, know where you were on that map, and follow lines that are roads on this map to get to the places you needed to be.
And I am cool enough. I'm going to say cool enough instead of old enough. I'm cool enough to remember MapQuest.
MapQuest! Yep. You printed out your journey.
Printed out your driving directions because you didn't have the voice to say turn right.
And hopefully you had a good person in the car to help you navigate. Like, oh, is this the right road? No. You had to look. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Tough times.
I would not have done well with having to look at maps. Like I would help my parents, right? Like I was young enough where I wasn't driving yet when I did that.
Oh man, we had to do that when
maybe I'm just not, I don't know. I'm not good at geography and I'm not good at knowing where I am, and so I think that I mean, maybe when I was driving, I just, like, knew where everything I wanted to go
True.
to was, and so I never, like, ventured farther than that, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to get
Well, and I think also, like, you had to look at, in 99.6 miles, turn right or something. So you had to look at your odometer and see where you were, what number it was at, and then add 99.6 to that and be like, okay, at this point, I'm going to have to turn right.
I would not. That sounds like math. Sounds like math. There's numbers. I'm out. I don't.
Oh, man. Okay, fun blast from the past there. Anyways, moving on.
Anyway, so Davis's truck, again, discovered in Dallas in good condition. So the court used this to infer that Floyd had driven it there from Oklahoma and then left it. And then, so at the conclusion of this kidnapping trial, Floyd was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 627 months, approximately 52 years in prison. Floyd has finally gone to pay for his crimes. So he's gone. He later appealed the conviction to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, of course, which affirmed all counts, ruling that his arguments, including his claim of being a parent and a denied right to self-representation, were meritless. Remarkably, the jury in the guilt phase of the trial, so the guilt phase is like the jury determines if the defendant has committed or not. So the guilt phase is like where the jury decides guilty or not. So remarkably, during this phase of the trial, they never heard that Michael was still missing. Like, they were never told. You know, they just heard that Floyd left with the boy, but that the jury never heard that the boy was still missing, which is strange. Like, why?
It seems like a very
important detail.
Important detail, yeah.
It's weird. Anyway, so for 20 years, Floyd refused to cooperate with authorities regarding the boy's location, once telling FBI agents, quote, "It's none of your business where he is, nor do I care how much any of you in Oklahoma miss him or love him," end quote. He's just a mean dude.
What do you hope to get from that?
Just a mean piece of crap. I don't know. I'm hungry. My stomach is letting me know. Okay, so now let's talk some more about this truck that they found.
Okay.
So there's more to the story. We're only like halfway. We're not even like done yet.
I have theories, but I'm not going to say them because I know. Okay.
You have no idea.
I have a theory, but I'm not going to say it.
Okay. So inside the truck, hidden under the bed of the truck, investigators found a package of 97 photographs.
Okay.
So in these photos, there is a woman who has been bound and beaten. And there's images of various children in suggestive poses. Yeah, I told you this is a dark, twisty one.
Well, I mean, he opened up with him being a child rapist, so it's not that much of a leap to whatever.
Okay, buckle up. So the photos included a woman later identified as Cheryl Comezzo. So Cheryl Comezzo had been a friend and colleague of Sharon Marshall, who worked as an exotic dancer. Right. They both worked there together. The two women met in 1989 after Franklin Delano Floyd moved Sharon to Florida and forced her to work in the strip club. So at the time of Cheryl's disappearance, she was approximately 19 years old. So shortly before she went missing in 1989, she was the target of Floyd's aggression. A witness heard Floyd making threats against her, asking for her address and last name, while stating he was going to make her pay. Right. That same witness later observed Comezzo and Floyd engaged in a heated argument outside a bar. So Floyd had it in for Cheryl for some reason. I never found out why. It's just something happened and he wanted to make her pay for it, and then she went missing. So the 97 photographs found in Franklin Delano Floyd's the stolen truck, actually Davis's stolen truck, were instrumental in identifying Cheryl Comezzo and convicting Floyd for her murder. So
she was one of the bound women.
Out of the they identified her in the photos. So out of the 97 photos, 16 of them depicted Comezzo bound and beaten. 4 different witnesses provided direct testimony identifying the woman in those pictures as Cheryl. In March of '95, skeletal remains were found in Pinellas County, Florida, discovered by highway workers. Investigators used the photographs found in the truck to identify the remains as Cheryl Comezzo, a colleague of Sharon Marshall. So the clothing Comezzo was wearing in the photos were consistent with the clothing found in the remains.
In Florida?
Yes, in Pinellas County, yeah. So the collection of photos contained approximately 7 or 8 photographs of Sharon, whom Floyd was then living with as his daughter. photographs of the children of, they also included photographs of the children of a friend of Sharon's named Helen Keller, who's another fellow dancer, and these included normal photographs too of the children that were used for comparison against the suggestive images to prove Floyd had taken them. A significant portion of the collection consisted of nude photographs of unidentified women, children, and possibly teenagers. Beyond the specific categories mentioned above that I just talked about, the collection contained various other innocent pictures. So there's that in the mix as well, which at this point I'm like, none of them are innocent. But I guess what they mean was like furniture or like just like people looking like they're at a party. I don't know. Just
clothed
like
children
pictures,
having fun or whatever.
So to prove Floyd was the photographer, investigators identified other individuals in the 97 photos whom he was known to associate with. So Sharon and Helen Keller.
Which what was really her name?
Yeah, I'm like, I read that and I was like, really? Did she know the other one? I'm sure that she, this Helen was probably like, I never heard that one before. Like, people joke. Anyway. So some of the photos in the collection showed a sofa and interior setting, and these were identified by witnesses as belonging to Floyd's trailer, his apartment. Additionally, the children in the collection were seen wearing the same clothes as in the normal photos Floyd had previously taken and given to their mother, proving he had taken the entire set of images.
Okay.
So at this point, we know all 97 photos were taken by Floyd. An FBI expert performed a side-by-side comparison of a thumb visible in one of the photos, showing the bound victim, and a photograph of Floyd's own thumb. So, when you take a photo, your thumb doesn't go where the camera is. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that by accident too, but like...
When we actually had cameras...
Even phones are too, like,
True, but it's...
phone.
Yeah.
It's harder, though.
Yeah. With like a flash camera, sometimes you covered the lens with your finger or the flash with the finger.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the flash from the past.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Flash from the past. Yep. You're welcome. So Floyd was indicted for the murder in 1987.
Of Helen Keller.
Of Cheryl Comesso.
Okay, sorry.
There's a lot of names, sorry.
Okay, yeah. So Cheryl...
Helen Keller is just a fellow dancer who her kids were in the photos. Cheryl was the remains they found, and I identified Cheryl as being in the photos. She was also a dancer, yes.
Okay.
But Helen Keller was a different,
different place.
Telling you.
Got it.
Yeah. They all danced at the same place.
Okay.
Different people, though. Helen Keller, nothing happened to her. It's just her kids' photos were in the in the stack. Okay. So he was indicted in 1997. So Franklin Delano Floyd's trial for the first-degree murder of Cheryl Comesso took place in 2002 in Pinellas County, Florida, while he was still incarcerated for the kidnapping. So he's never left prison. Okay.
Just racking up charges. Got it.
So by establishing that the photograph collection belonged to Floyd and featured a victim identified by both witnesses and physical remains, the photographs became the linchpin of the state's case against him. So the prosecution described this photo packet as Floyd's little collection, which is gross. Like, why? Why would you call it that? It's like saying, like, a dude's, like, little black book. Like, why call it, like, why give it a cutesy name? Like, this is awful.
It's like pedophiles collection. It's not, yeah.
So I had a burning question, and I put it in red. I had a burning question of why were the photos not used to add charges onto the kidnapping trial? So why didn't they use whatever? And so I was like, they could have just made, like, added charges onto that one, and then he would have just gone away for all of it. So the answers to that...
Like, I have possible answers, but go for it.
So because the crimes occurred in different states and involved different legal jurisdictions, they could not simply be added to the Oklahoma federal kidnapping indictment. Again, I'm not a professional attorney or whatever, I was like, but why not? It would be so easy. But yeah, there's nuance and things. Also, it took additional time for investigators to use the photographs found in the truck to definitively identify the remains as Comesso's. By the time a murder case could be built up, the 95 kidnapping trial was already underway or concluded. So things take time, which I'm like, just speed it up. Come on. There's bad people afoot. Yeah, let's go. Also, the photographs were not used in the 95 trial because they did not depict Michael Hughes. So, kidnapping trial,
Yeah, separate.
all about Michael. Yeah. So the kidnapping trial focused on a specific event, the abduction of Michael at gunpoint. So legally introducing 97 photos of child porn and abuse of an unrelated woman would be inadmissible and highly prejudicial.
Separate entity.
But I'm like, but that still sucks, though.
It does.
Because,
But they did get...
They did get him.
Yeah, but they did get used, I guess is the best way to put that, in a different trial, or no?
Yeah, they were used for his murder trial in 2002.
But not for all the children being exploited?
Well, that would have been part of the, none of them showed Michael, and so they wanted to focus on, the kidnapping.
Yeah.
So the photos weren't really related to that anyway.
But did they ever, try him on the child porn and stuff?
I mean, I guess they could have. I didn't really see anything.
That just makes me sad, because then all those kids are now traumatized and have no...
Well, I'm assuming that they would have, just put that in with the charges for the murder. Because since the shrek message was identified from the photos, so, the photos are the linchpin of that trial.
Okay.
And they would have used the other photos to, add to that.
Charges. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want justice for the children.
Yeah, same. To prove the photos belonged to Floyd, the prosecution introduced other images from the same package that featured people Floyd knew. Like I said, Sharon Marshall, his daughter, and his boat. They also showed the inside of Floyd's trailer and his furniture, so people were like, I know that couch, and whatever. Yeah. So during the legal proceedings, the prosecution introduced witnesses who specifically identified the sofa, like I just said. Sorry, I keep I wanted to repeat stuff so that people could kind of keep track of everything, because there's a lot. So proving that the sofa belonged to Floyd was critical in establishing that they were all from his trailer apartment. They were all taken by him.
There's no doubt. That's
yeah. So he owned the furniture, he owned the photos, everything. Yeah. He was the one who took the pictures and then possessed them until they were found in the truck in 94. So out of the original 97 photos, 7 were completely excluded from the trial by the judge because they were categorized as outrageous child pornography. So I guess 7 of them were just too much to show in a trial, which...
Why?
I don't...
That just puts a nail in the coffin for him.
Yeah, but...
It's a dirty... Bleh.
I don't know.
Sad.
I didn't want to look into it more. Because I was like, I don't know. That's enough. That's enough for me.
You put on a list.
Yeah. I'm just like, what exactly was in the pictures? No. And then the cops are like, are you good?
Why are you looking?
Do you? Yeah. Why do you need this? Yeah. A major point of contention in the trial was the admission of evidence regarding Floyd's 94 kidnapping of school principal James Davis in Michael Hughes in Oklahoma. So prosecution's argument was the state argued that this evidence was essential to provide the jury with an intelligent accounting of how Floyd came into possession of the truck where the photos were found. Right? But defense said that this would just... it said Floyd's counsel argued that this was highly inflammatory, that's the word I couldn't find, inflammatory and intended to just convince the jury that Floyd was a man with a, quote, sick mind and capable of outrageous and violent acts. But but he was. Yeah. So anyway, rather than proving he committed the specific murder, so all it would do would just oh my god, he's so terrible, I'm just gonna say he's guilty, and he didn't have to actually prove.
You have to have that information. How did he get there? Oh, he had this truck. Where did he get the truck from? It wasn't his. Oh, well, he did this. I mean, it all is related and needed. That's dumb. I'm sorry. Defense, you're dumb.
So the trial judge attempted to sanitize this testimony by excluding mentions of the gun, duct tape, or death threats used during the kidnapping, though the defense argued the jury could easily infer those details.
Nope.
The trial judge ultimately ruled that the kidnapping of Michael and the principal was necessary to explain how Floyd ended up with the truck containing the photos. But the details, I guess, the duct tape and the gun and the death threats weren't necessary.
Then why did the principal do it? Would be my question as a prosecutor.
Then why did what? Why did
Why did the principal get the kid and go with him and allow himself to be tied to a tree?
Oh, yeah.
Because he was threatened with a gun.
Yeah, but they were just... Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you know?
But, like, this trial was not about how he did the kidnapping. It was just... He stole a truck from this dude, and that's why these photos are in this truck.
I understand. I would still be very argumentative about that and be like, but how do you get it? You need to understand this, jury. He did this at gunpoint with threats. That's necessary to understand why he got the truck.
So during this trial, one of the Floyd's defense team heavily contested the testimony of an FBI expert named Thomas Mashrumo. He's the guy who identified Floyd's thumb in one of the photos and compared it. So this Mashrumo guy, which I just want to say mushroom. He conducted a side-by-side comparison between a photo showing an object described in the trial transcript as either an earring or a fingernail and a physical item discovered in the woods 6 years later. The physical item found in the woods where Cheryl Comezzo's skeletal remains were located had deteriorated due to exposure to the elements over a period of 6 years. To assist the jury in seeing these details, Mashrumo used photographs that had been blown up and enhanced to create high-quality prints for the court.
Okay.
He was tendered as an expert in side-by-side comparison, with the prosecution arguing his FBI training allowed him to distinguish fine details in objects and photographs more accurately than an average person. The defense heavily contested this, arguing that side-by-side comparison was not a recognized field of expertise, and that he was acting as a super juror by performing a task that the jurors were perfectly capable of doing for themselves. So, like, anybody else can do side-by-side comparison. This dude is just trying to be a super dude, whatever.
It's also that's a dumb thing to say anyway, because the reason you have experts testify is because they're an expert in whatever it is you need them to testify about.
Yeah.
Maybe it's side-by-side comparison.
Yeah.
The defense is dumb here.
Yeah. They're just grasping at straws, I think, because there's so much against Floyd at this point. So while the defense claimed the state failed to connect Floyd directly to the actual shooting that caused Comezzo's death, the prosecution argued the case was built on direct evidence. This included Floyd's prior threats to make Comezzo pay, and a witness testimony that the two engaged in a heated argument outside a bar shortly before her disappearance in '89. So Floyd was convicted for the murder of Comezzo in 2002, largely based on the photographic evidence connecting him to her, and sentenced to death.
Oh, okay.
So he's gone. Like, he's on death row now.
Okay.
But there's more. So legal records from his period on death row show that Floyd's counsel argued against the death sentence, challenging the trial court's decision to admit collateral crime evidence, specifically the 1994 kidnapping of Michael Hughes and James Davis and the package of 97 incriminating photos. So they're trying so hard to get him
to overthrow
to at least to get him to, like, not die, whatever. So they're just grasping at straws this whole time. Okay, so flash forward now, or I guess 2 years later, in 2004, a guy named Matt Burbeck publishes a book called A Beautiful Child.
Okay.
So this book basically he's introduced. So Matt Burbeck introduces the case of Sharon Marshall in this book. He does this whole deep dive. This discovery is like a decade-long investigative effort to unravel deep, disturbing secrets that were so complex they took more than 10 years to fully understand. So Burbeck's book, A Beautiful Child, is razor-focused on the tragedy of a young woman living in a shocking dual life under the control of Floyd. So Burbeck learned that while living in Forest Park, Georgia in the 80s, Sharon was a brilliant honor student and a member of Who's Who among high school students in America. She was so academically gifted that she earned a full scholarship to Georgia Tech University to study aerospace engineering. Behind the successful facade, though, his research revealed that Sharon lived in Behind this successful facade, he revealed that Sharon lived in a state of extreme evil. No one at the time knew the horrible truth that Floyd, then using the alias Warren Marshall, was sexually abusing her and eventually forced her into exotic dancing and prostitution after they moved to Tampa. So he finds out about this girl, and he writes this book, and he researches it. So his investigation into this dual life was driven by a desire to tell the story of a young woman's struggle to survive and to highlight the shameful history of how law enforcement handled missing children cases through the 80s. So he was just trying to shed light on, we have all these missing children and we're not finding them or finding out what happened. So the primary driver of this book was the baffling question, who was Sharon Marshall? So Birbeck was, like I said, he was razor focused on this case. What happened to this brilliant aerospace engineering student? What caused this evil in her life? You know, what happened to her? All this stuff. So Birbeck intended the book to be a tome to the millions, or quote, a tome to the millions of the lost, battered, and abused children of America. He wanted to bring attention to the shameful history of, all the cracks in the system, and estimates are that suggested nearly 1 million children went missing annually. So he was basically just like, enough's enough. Like, why the heck is this so hard? So the author was motivated to tell the story of one young woman's struggle to survive and flourish despite the horrific abuse she endured from the man she believed was her father. At the time of writing, official investigations into Sharon's identity had stalled. Birbeck's work was precipitated by a need to keep the story alive in the public consciousness to generate new leads. Kind of like, I guess, any, unsolved mysteries or whatever. Like, we're trying to keep the case alive in people's thoughts so they, like, think about it, and maybe it'll, like, push police toward whatever. So this strategy eventually led to the discovery of her biological daughter and ultimately her true identity.
Okay, I'm here.
So during the 10 years, they discovered that Sharon Marshall, they found her biological daughter, and they used that to find that Sharon, also Tanya, was actually Suzanne Marie Sevakis.
Okay.
So Birbeck, working with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, located Sharon's biological daughter, who she remains anonymous. I couldn't get like her name or information, but she had been placed for adoption in 1989. So during during Suzanne, now we know her name is Suzanne. I messed up at the very beginning and said her name, and I was like, oh shit.
I didn't catch it.
Okay, good. But I guess during their time together, she had a kid. I'm gonna have some water.
With
my voice is getting.
Time with.
So
Floyd?
1980, 1989,
Floyd,
she was with Floyd, yeah.
So Floyd is the biological father of this girl, the little girl, that was put up for adoption also in 89.
Yeah, so Floyd, I'm like sexually abusing Suzanne, and Suzanne got pregnant, and then there was this daughter.
Interesting, okay.
And finding the daughter led them to find out that her mom wasn't Cheryl, but was Suzanne. So okay, yeah. So they kind of did it backwards, I guess. So she was born in 89, like I said, and was placed for adoption that same year. And then during his decade-long investigation into Sharon Marshall's identity, so he located this daughter. So he was able to, like, he found her and whatever. In 2011, the NCMEC, National Missing and Exploited Children, it's such a long, I'd rather just say NCMEC.
National... What national something?
National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Yeah.
Missing and exploited. Yeah.
Anyway, so in 2011, they reopened the investigation into Sharon Marshall's identity. 2 FBI agents from Oklahoma City were recruited to lead the case, using Birbeck's book and his extensive research as their primary guide for interviewing Floyd. So in July of 2014, comparing the daughter's DNA to relatives of girls who went missing in the early 70s, this led to the Sevakis family, and so this led to the positive identification of Sharon Marshall as Suzanne. So that was concluded. Finally, we 100% knew who she was in 2014. It was just, I guess it was a process. It took a little while, but.
And you might answer this in a minute, but you said comparing it to the DNA of missing children from the early 70s, that the Sevakis family.
Right.
conferred or agreed on. Yes, that's our daughter.
Yes.
So she went missing. Suzanne went missing in the 70s. Was she abducted? Did she run away? Are you going to answer that? You're going to answer.
We're getting there.
That's what I thought.
So investigators located Suzanne's mother, Sandy Chipman, through a combination of this forensic DNA testing and a final confession from Franklin Floyd in 2014. So he's on death row and he finally decides to say something. So during the same period in 2014, FBI agents interviewed Floyd in a Florida prison using the book A Beautiful Child as a guide. Agents questioned him until he finally provided her true identity, Suzanne Marie Sevakis, and admitted she was the daughter of a woman he had briefly married in the mid-70s. So once the name Suzanne Marie Sevakis was confirmed, the pieces of Sandy Chipman's story fell into place. So in 75, while Sandy was serving a 30-day jail sentence for passing bad checks, Floyd, then using the name Brandon Williams, had kidnapped Suzanne and her 3 siblings. So in his confession, he also shared that following the abduction of Suzanne, Floyd resurfaced in Oklahoma City in 1975 using the name Trenton B. Davis, presenting Suzanne as his daughter. He spent the next decade moving her from town to town using various aliases to avoid arrest on an outstanding warrant for the parole violation back in 1973.
Okay.
So that was how they first discovered that he was Floyd and not Clarence, was he had a warrant from 73. So now we're kind of just putting everything back together.
It's a lot crammed into a little bit of space you just said. So Floyd, who we know as Floyd, whatever his name is, had relations with
Sandy
the mother of Cheryl.
Yeah. Who was Suzanne?
Suzanne, yeah, our main girl right now.
Yeah.
And then they had a baby, Cheryl.
No.
Or he was just pretending to be father figure and then kidnapped.
Yeah, so in 73, he's running from he's parole hopping or whatever. Right. And then in 75, he's dating Sandy Chipman. And
the
then
mother of Cheryl. Okay.
Yeah. We don't know who the dad is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then he
Suzanne. Yeah. So Suzanne's mom is Sandy Chipman.
Right.
Floyd isn't her biological dad.
Okay.
He's just the guy that she was dating.
Pretending to be her dad after he abducts her and her siblings.
Yeah, abducts her and her siblings, and then he just is like, yes, this is my daughter, you know.
Under different aliases. Okay.
So investigators learned through Sandy Chipman, who again, Suzanne's mom, that Floyd had kidnapped Suzanne and her 3 siblings in 75, so while she was serving for bad checks the 30-day jail sentence. Okay. So when Sandy is released from jail, she discovers that Floyd has vanished with her children. When she attempted to file a missing persons report, authorities informed her that because Floyd was the children's stepfather, he had a legal right to take them. So I guess they'd gotten married since stepdad. So her daughters, Allison and Amy, were eventually found in an orphanage or left at a church. That there's 2 differing things there. So either orphanage or a church, but they were returned to Sandy's custody. The sisters were the biological children of Sandy Chipman and her partner, Dennis Brandenburg, who I don't have anything with, but anyway.
We're out of the picture, apparently.
Yeah, making them Suzanne's half-siblings.
Making them Suzanne's half-siblings?
Because they had a different dad.
I didn't catch that part. Okay.
Yeah. So Amy and Allison are half sisters of Suzanne, but they were all abducted together. While Suzanne's sisters had been found in an orphanage decades earlier, her brother Philip remained a mystery, and we'll get to that at the end. Okay. So Sandy was not. What's happening? Hold on. Sorry, my notes are doing something weird. Okay. Sandy was never able to regain custody of Suzanne when Floyd kept her and raised under various aliases. So Suzanne and Floyd, this whole time they've been traveling together under different names. So Floyd continued to use his Trenton identity while moving Suzanne to several different locations. So basically Suzanne stayed with Floyd up until her death in that hit and run.
Okay. But posing as a father figure until they got married.
Yes, and then he was Clarence,
right,
her husband. Yeah. So Suzanne, we're going to talk about Suzanne. So Suzanne was born in 1969 to Sandy Chipman and Cliff Sevakis. She was the oldest of 4 children. She had 3 half-siblings from her mother's subsequent relationship with Dennis Brandenburg, so 2 sisters, Allison and Amy, and a younger brother, Philip. So in the mid-70s, the family was living in North Carolina. By 1974 or 1975, Suzanne's mother was married to Franklin Delano Floyd, who was then using the alias Brandon Williams.
Okay.
So that's where stepfather comes in. They got married. Following Suzanne's abduction, Floyd resurfaced in Oklahoma City in 75 using Trenton P.B. Davis alias and presenting Suzanne as his daughter. He spent the next decade moving her from town to town using various aliases to avoid arrest on the outstanding 73 parole violation warrant, and he basically used Suzanne as his daughter-wife. Vomit. I vomited in my mouth when I read that. So Franklin Delano Floyd finally confessed in 2014. Again, this confession was the result of a multi-year effort by the FBI and the NCMEC, and driven largely by the research found in Matt Birkbeck's book, A Beautiful Child, that he published in 2004. So, I love when, like, podcasts or books or whatever, like, they provide more, you know, because sometimes, like, we talk about this a lot, like, cops, like, they have their theories, and they kind of get, like, tunnel vision, but then it's, like, the third parties that come in, like, you'll have, like, a, like, a podcaster will come in and investigate it with fresh eyes,
right,
and then...
Well, different perspective, I mean, you have...
Yeah.
We all have different brains, right? So we all see things differently and analyze things differently and connect things differently or disprove things differently. So I think that's... I don't know. I think that's a good thing. And
then, yeah, and I love that. And so I always listen to those podcasts. It's so interesting to me. Like there was this girl, Kristen Smart. I don't know if you remember that case, but the only reason that her killer is behind bars is because of that podcast that came out about it. And like, that's so cool to me. Like I ate that podcast up. Oh my gosh. I even have the date that he'll be eligible for parole. I put it in my calendar as like, you know, screw Paul Flores because he's just like such a anyway. But yeah, 2032 or whatever. So like my calendar was like this far out, you sure? And I was like, yep. It's like, yep, absolutely. I will still hate that man. Anyway. So during those FBI interviews in 2014, Floyd also finally admitted that he had killed Michael on the same day that he kidnapped him.
No.
Yeah.
I was holding out hope there. I really was. Oh.
Sorry. He described the murder in brutal detail, stating, "I shot him twice in the back of the head to make it real quick."
Well, at least there's that. It wasn't drawn out. Oh, that makes me so sad. Okay. Little 6-year-old boy. Jeez.
Yeah. You don't need to shoot him twice. Like, one probably would have been fine to the back of the head. Like,
or why? Not at all.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
It's not that hard to not kill people.
Yeah.
Floyd.
So Floyd told investigators that he had buried Michael's body near the last exit on Interstate 35 in Oklahoma just before the Texas border. Based on this confession, authorities conducted a thorough search of the area, but they never found him.
It's been 30 whatever years.
There's no new leads, They never found him. So during these 2014 interviews, Floyd also provided details about the location of Michael's remains, but again, I mean, he's trying so hard to like, let me out of prison, I know where the body is, blah, blah.
Execution kind of crap.
Yeah, but yeah, he, nope, they never found him, so that's poor 6-year-old Michael with the Aladdin backpack.
And his little crooked front teeth.
Yeah, his little crooked bottom teeth. Okay, so now we'll get into the mystery of Philip. Because I said we get there at the end. Okay. So, Suzanne, her biological brother was Philip Stephen Brandenburg. Was her, she never knew during her life with Franklin Delano Floyd. So, never even knew him. While Suzanne's other siblings were found in an orphanage and returned to their mother, Sandy, Philip's fate remained a mystery for over 40 years. So Philip was born to Sandy and Dennis Brandenburg. When he was only about 1 month old, his mother secretly put him up for adoption in North Carolina. This occurred before Sandy and her other children moved to Texas and encountered Floyd. So before, so the only children kidnapped were Suzanne, Allison, and Amy. Okay. Yeah. So Philip was, he's adopted. He was adopted by Mary and Bob Patterson, who renamed him Stephen. He grew up unaware of his true identity or his connection to the tragic case of Sharon Marshall, Suzanne.
Okay.
So Stephen's true identity was finally uncovered when he was in his 40s. Of having suspicions about his past, he reached out to the author of the book A Beautiful Child. So that was cool that they connected, and Matt was able to help him. So investigators and even the FBI found it difficult to track Philip's existence for decades because of the lack of records and the intense focus on Suzanne and Michael. So I guess he kind of fell through the cracks there because they were focused on Suzanne and Michael.
Kidnapped children.
His story was essentially buried under layers of Floyd's other crimes until Stephen's own search for answers brought the truth to light. And there's another book, so after A Beautiful Child, sequel is Finding Sharon, which is basically all about how they finally figured out that Sharon was Suzanne and all that stuff. And that one was published in 2018. Okay. Franklin Delano Floyd died of natural causes on Florida's death row on January 23rd, 2023 at the age of 79.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that, I hate that. And I know I shouldn't be like, vengeances or whatever,
but he'll get what's coming to him.
I agree.
If you believe in that.
And I maybe badly think my non-Christianness is coming out, but I hope he suffered a lot in prison.
Yeah.
I hope that the other prisoners found out what he did to little kids.
Yeah. They have a way of finding it.
Served him the justice that most of us wish he had.
Yeah. So that was a dark one. Very twisty.
Yeah. You didn't give me very good positive thing. I mean, to be fair, the brother was a positive.
Yes. He's okay.
And he got to reunite with his biological family or ever get to meet them?
I don't. Well, Suzanne's dead. I don't know about the others.
The sisters or,
I'm hoping because he was working with the author of that book. I'm assuming they would have reconnected, but I didn't. Well, I should have added that because that would have been such a nice way to end this.
Positive.
Yeah.
No, it's
sorry.
It's good. I like that there is a positive part of this whole story, and that hopefully he was raised in a loving family.
Mm-hmm.
He was adopted and everything. And I feel like, again, going back to being part of that community, the foster and adoptive community myself, as a foster parent, I think, I don't know, I'm sure there's lots of like controversial views on, should we tell the child that we've adopted that you're adopted? Should we encourage them to build community or relations with their biological family? And I think yes. I mean, if it's safe, if it's a safe thing to do, yes. But I know there's a lot of people that are like, no, they were taken for a reason. Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. I feel like in this case, his adoptive parents might have been able to be like, hey, when he was old enough, right?
Yeah.
Be like, hey, you have some sisters out there.
Yeah.
Let's connect. I don't know.
Yeah. It's such a traumatic story, though. So, like, they probably just wanted to shield him from that.
I can understand that. Yeah. But also, as a parent, I think the hardest things we have to understand sometimes is that too much protection is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's a hard thing to understand because you're like, no, they're my babies. I will protect them from everything.
And there's a fine line, too, between, like, what is too much and what is, like, what does he need to know versus, like, what's just going to cause him harm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. But then what about the sisters? Like, they lost, well, I guess they never knew him.
Yeah, they never knew him.
They lost a brother, but they never knew him, which doesn't make it any better, but I think it would make it less hard to comprehend, like, we have a brother? Like, I don't know him, but that sucks that he's not here. I don't know, that's really, really lightly putting it, but, Instead of like we grew up together and we were 12 when he was kidnapped and I don't know where he is and I need I need some closure here kind of situation, but different situation. I guess.
Yeah, I'm just really sad that Suzanne never got justice, or she was never found. She was just kidnapped and then strung along, and then she died in a hit and run. Like, that's so sad.
Was it a hit and run though? I know you said it was a suspicious.
I mean, hit and run, but like somebody maybe like meant to like hit her and then leave, kind of thing. We know it was a hit and run. We just don't know if it was like an accident
Or if it was planned.
or if it was planned. Yeah.
Okay.
It was suspicious. It was sus. But yeah,
well, I'm also
sad.
glad that justice was served, that Terrence or Clarence or what was his name?
Floyd. Franklin Delano Floyd.
Was he Clarence at some point?
Yes.
Okay, good. My brain. I'm making connections.
He was a lot of different. Clarence, Trenton, Brandon, Warren,
Floyd was
Warren Marshall.
Right. I'm glad he got what was coming to him eventually and spent most of his life in jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, good.
It just, like, I can't believe that he was able to commit a bunch of crimes and then be on parole and then escape that and then meet someone and get into a relationship with this woman and then kidnap her children.
And then they end up dead.
And then, like, kidnap another kid.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, it's just...
There is and I mentioned this to you, I think yesterday I texted you about, our January theme.
Oh, yeah.
Should be like cases that caused laws or laws that were changed because of different cases. There is one, and I thought this might have been it. I didn't do any details, like, at all research into it, but there's a 3 strikes and you're out law now based off of felonies.
Okay.
So if
I didn't see that anywhere in this research. So
I was just wondering, because maybe it should have happened a little earlier for Mr. whatever his name is. But, like, you commit a felony and then you get out, or you're on parole or something and you committed another felony, that's 2 strikes. The third one, even if it's like you took a pack of gum and forgot to pay for it, you stole, you're in jail for life.
Yeah.
So that's the 3 strikes and you're out kind of rule. There's a lot.
That should have always been the case. Like, but that reminds me of I was in the second or I think it was the second one. In the second Mindhunter book that you have, she has all 3 now because I finished all 3 of them because I'm an animal and I just ate them up. I just inhaled all of this information and it's just in my brain now. Anyway,
and I'm in the middle of the first one still.
There was this girl also named Suzanne. A lot of people back then were named Suzanne. But she was a Marine and she was murdered and brutalized, and they came up with, there's this law that was put into place where something like they can't kind of prevents them from like getting out at like a certain point. Like you can't I don't even remember, but what I was gonna say was so they have this law, but then the guy that killed their daughter, thus creating the law in the first place, it didn't apply to him because he was like arrested afterward or something like that. And I was like, that sucks. Like, I read that part and I literally, like, I put the book down and I was like, Paul, oh my God. And he was like,
I don't
what? Yeah, no, he doesn't give a shit about any of this. It's so funny because, like, I keep telling him because he's the only other adult in my house. And so I'm like, when I read something, I'm like, oh my God, can you believe it? And so, he's like, but he's like Mr. Logical over there. He's like, well, that makes sense because, and I'm like, but it sucks.
Whether it makes sense or not, it's unjust.
But it sucks so much.
I hate that. Oh, on that same vein, I know it was like 10 years ago by now. Time is so, like, what is time? We have, there was a law, what was it? And it caused a lot of previously convicted felons to get a chance to be retried.
Was that in the UK?
No, it was here.
Okay. Because also in the UK, there's like...
But, oh gosh, that infuriates me because then it was, well, if this person committed this crime in 1958, but now we have this law that says what they did wasn't that bad. They can have a retrial. It's like, no. That's a huge summary or whatever, but they were convicted. They served the
They're
time.
done, yeah.
Yeah. You don't get another chance unless there's new evidence.
Yeah. Oh, I think I remember now a little bit more of the background of that, like, Marine that was...
Mm-hmm.
So he was on death row. Like, he was already on death row. He already had, like, a death date and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then he kept trying to appeal it to the
Mm-hmm.
point where, like, it just drags it out. And so, like, the family was like, Enough.
Yeah.
Like, you're done. Like, you're done. And then, you know, so that's what led me to think of, you know, when I told you the other day, I was like, people on death row should not be on death row for longer than how their victims are. But like this dude that killed this Marine was on death row for decades, and he kept appealing it, and they kept listening to him and whatever, and it was just like
I want to know who makes those decisions, because I know the death penalty is a state by state thing. Yeah. So I'm wondering, you know, wherever that guy was, if it was just like, well, we were a lenient state, or, you know, I don't know.
Oh, but, yeah.
If they have death row as a possibility, probably not. But I'm just thinking, I don't know. Yeah. I don't like yucky.
Yeah. So that was not very comical.
No.
And it didn't end very well. And I apologize. But very twisty. You wanted twisty?
It was, and
it was
I hadn't heard of it.
On theme, on brand.
Yep.
That's why, so there's a Netflix documentary that came out called, like, The Girl in the Picture or something, and it's about this case, and so, like, that's why I didn't want to share any names with you, because I was like, if she saw it, that's going to fuck up my whole thing.
I don't have Netflix, so...
Yeah, okay.
I'm poor.
Yeah, Netflix is, like, outrageous. Anyway, but, so yeah, that's why, like, I didn't want to share any names, because I was like, if she recognizes the name, she's gonna know, and then it's gonna ruin my whole, like, surprise
You got
thing.
me on this one. I didn't know any of them.
Anyway.
I will say, on shows and stuff, there's one I stumbled upon, and it's on Hulu. It's called # Text Me When You Get Home. And that was a whole thing.
Is it just one case?
No, it's like every episode is a different case.
Oh, okay.
And it's really good.
Okay.
It's well done. It's
okay. I'll have to check that out then.
Series or seasons on it too.
I've been really, like, hyper obsessed with, like, the series that are just one case, and it's like, you know, because that's really interesting to me to, like, see every single detail.
This is way out of there. We're just talking now.
We're just hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging out. You don't have to stay, but if you do, that's cool.
There was years ago, there was a rendition, I don't know how else to say that, of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh.
But it was like a Hollywood version. Like, there are A-list actors in it. I was glued to that, but it was cool because it was kind of like they had each perspective, and so you got to see and really get the details from, like, the defense's side and from the prosecution side, and everything surrounding it was a whole nother section or episode kind of thing. And I liked that a lot because it was, in my mind, the most objective way to present a case.
Yeah.
And I wish we could do that all the time.
Speaking of OJ, I shared this with Hillary, but now that she brought up OJ, I can bring this up with you guys. So in the second to last chapter of the second Mindhunter book, he talks about OJ. And, I mean, we all know that OJ didn't. We all know that. But it's confirmed 100% now because so the FBI was never invited in to do, like, a profile or anything, but John Douglas provides his, like, psychological, like, profile after reading it, and it couldn't have been anyone else. Like case closed. Nobody else could have done this because of the brutality of, like, he was, like, punishing Nicole, and Ron Goldman, he basically, like, he just showed up and then, like, surprised OJ. So OJ just wanted to neutralize him, but he really was going after Nicole. And, like, I don't know. Anyway, so case closed. It was definitely OJ.
And there's been a million things done on OJ. But if you're interested enough for us to do a deep dive on him, I would be cool with that.
Yep. And I read the book. I read his book, so I know all the everything going on in his brain.
All the lines.
Super cool. Yeah.
So, anyways, I think how long have we been going?
A while.
A while.
Probably. It's almost noon.
I don't know how to YouTube right now. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Sorry, it was a long one, but a good one.
Good. It was good.
I hope you liked. Not liked. I don't know how to say that. I hope
you liked our presentation.
Yes, I hope you enjoyed my thorough presentation of it. Even though it lasted a long time, and my voice kind of died.
Was a lot, yeah. Don't forget to support us by liking, sharing, subscribing.
Subscribe, share.
And get your own merch on our Amazon storefront. I'm also rocking one of our mugs today too, apparently. I was just like
being whitewashed by the camera.
Boop. Boop. Boop.
Yay.
Thank you guys, and we'll be back next week.
Yep.
With a case I haven't figured out yet, but it'll be another twisty one because that's July.
It's July. And then do I have one more after?
I think so.
Okay.
I think there's four Tuesdays in July.
All right.
I think so.
Yay! So, thanks for hanging out with us and for listening.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.